was that the second biggest killer of our youth, which used to be car accidents, is now suicide globally. But for me, more importantly, it's about the people within that tech ecosystem, right? So most of the technologies that are coming out are making our lives better, faster, more efficient, more creative. But fundamentally, it's that intersection, that balance between us, the people that build the tech, and what the tech does. Recognizing that there is a need to reconnect our workplace. Over 73% of people globally are disengaged in their work. So that means if you want people to really add to your brand, right? Tech is all about innovation. You need people to be thinking and creating and changing the way things are done. You need people to feel belonging. Sympathy creates distance. I feel sorry for you, but I'm not close to you. I feel sorry for you at distance. Empathy is about, I understand that the more you lean into your passion, the more you lean into your purpose, even when other people don't necessarily believe in your purpose yet, the more that positivity counts, the more that feedback comes. And what I can tell you is, the more you lean into that passion, the more you believe in what you're meant to do, the more comes back. This too shall pass. So very old-fashioned phrase.
Alright guys, welcome back to a very, very special episode which was quite planned very soon, and she's an international superstar.
No problem, thank you.
Please welcome Mimi Nicklin.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm so happy to be here. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for having me, Russell. It's really, really cool.
Amazing. So just a quick intro about Mimi. She's also a podcaster. She's my stream. I'm also a best-selling author, and she's also an empathy advocate.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Let's get started. Oh, Sri Lanka.
Amazing. Always amazing. I used to live here, so I have a real soft spot for Sri Lanka. I lived here for 2 years, 21 and 22. Now I commute back, but yeah, it's my favorite place to do business. So yeah, I love it. I love it. I'm like a cheerleader for Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
And everybody are amazing cheerleaders. So, yeah.
Perfect. Very lovely to hear words on Sri Lanka. Before just we get started, right? Who is Mimi?
Who is Mimi? So I, as you said, I specialize in empathy, and you can't really separate out what I do and who I am. And I think that often the media says that we should, right? The media says that you should have a professional persona and then a personal persona, and that there's work-life balance and all of those types of things. But for me, my passion is who I am. So you mentioned there, Asal, I'm an empathy advocate. I write, I content create, I podcast, I train. How to be more empathic, right? And that is really my purpose, my passion, but it's also my professional role. So beyond that, I'm a mum, and I have 2 bulldogs and 2 cats.
Oh.
So yeah, I love animals, and I love my work.
So if I just ask you, with the whole technology-driven world that we are in, what do you think about the technology that's being driven into the world right now in your perspective?
So, I mean, I actually said earlier today to someone that the 4th industrial revolution, which is what we're in right now, right, is absolutely about the tech, right? It's about how technology is changing our world. But for me, more importantly, it's about the people within that tech ecosystem, right? So most of the technologies that are coming out are making our lives better, faster, more efficient, more creative. But fundamentally, it's that intersection, that balance between us, the people that build the tech, and what the tech does for us. And I think that's an incredibly exciting time. People often ask me whether technology is going to take away our empathy, right? Whether the machines are going to take over. But Russell, I don't think that's the case, right? I think that it's about how we use those platforms that will change the world and us. And then we have to have that empathy, that humanity at the core. But in the end, it's making a better world. So I think it's an exciting time.
Amazing. Yeah, that's quite a strong word there. So before you just jump deep into it, what if I just ask you how your journey began, and a bit of a, what do you call it, like a trailer of it?
A trailer my journey. Yeah, absolutely. So I was actually in marketing for my whole career. And that job took me to Dubai in 2018. And I went to be a CEO of a regional business there. When I got to Dubai, that business was, let's say, politically correctly not doing as well as I had been led to believe, perhaps, before I arrived. And that was a really difficult time for me. I had been in very corporate roles for my whole career. This role made me an entrepreneur overnight, and I was not ready for it, actually. And I didn't know how to fix it. So in that process, I ended up seeing a business coach and asking for some advice on what she thought I should do to turn around the situation. And within that conversation, my life changed, because she asked me this one key question. She said to me, "What is your leadership style like?" And I was talking about intuition, so intuitive leadership. And she asked me, "Is it intuition or is it empathy?" And that question, changed the rest of my life, really. The short version of that, Russell, is that I went away, I started studying empathy. I discovered something called the empathy deficit, which is the lack of connection in our world. I started writing about it. The book became a bestseller. I made a podcast about it. 85,000 people came. My life changed. So I always say to people, I'm an accidental entrepreneur. All right, I never planned it, but I do believe it was my purpose. And through that difficult role, I ended up following the purpose work that I had to do.
Amazing. I think that just touches upon my next question is that how did you become passionate about empathy, and what helps you to bring that to your mission today?
Look, after I met with that coach, she asked me that question around empathy. And I went away and started studying it. And I remember really clearly kind of two key moments around that. I was looking at data, global data, about the empathy deficit, about the gaps between us. And one of the first pieces I found was actually about youth suicide. Okay? So it was looking at young people around the world and the specific age of 14 to 24-year-olds. And what that data showed was that the second biggest killer of our youth, which used to be car accidents, is now suicide globally. And I just felt that if we get to a point in our world where our young people are choosing not to stay on the planet with us, we're in a really big hook. So that data, alongside the numbers around mental health, so we now have 400 million people with depression. Some of that data and the disconnection issues that we have in society, once I discovered them, I never really went back. And that fuels my passion, that the potential to reconnect the world, the potential to overcome the loneliness issues. We had 52% of us are lonely, right? So this is what fuels my passion, that there is so much to be done to reconnect our world. And, little bit by little bit, that's what I want.
So you actually spoke about the data. That's very, very touchy. So that's quite a large audience, like tech audience, tech listeners out here, tech leaders out.
Yeah.
So if I just ask you, how can the tech leaders build their culture into the empathy tech, and how can they make it in their business or their business model or their startup?
Yeah. Look, the first step in leadership is awareness, right? So then looking at your show and listening to us today, just recognizing that there is a need to reconnect our workplace. So 52% of us are lonely, but if we look at some of the other data, over 73% of people globally are disengaged in their work. So that means they go to work, they do their job, but they only do their job. They're not adding to it, right? They're not innovating, they're not being particularly creative or strategic. What that means for tech businesses is that you are getting nowhere near the full potential for your people, right? They're turning up, doing their job, going home, repeat, right? If you want people to really add to your brand, right? Tech is all about innovation. You need people to be thinking and creating and changing the way things are done. You need people to feel belonging. They need to be connected. It's a super stressful landscape, right? It changes all the time. So I would say that the first step for tech leaders is the awareness that they need to be training in this, that they need to consider it. But the second thing would be to master listening, which is, of course, what they're doing, listening to us today. It is an active skill. I spend my life training it around the world. Fundamentally, if you want to lead, you need to first listen. And that is what I'm trying to share around the world, is the power of listening in filling the gaps, but also in driving a business. If you get it right, empathetic businesses make 23% more profit. Perfect, big numbers.
So the power of listening is podcasting is one tool of
Thanking. Yeah. And that's why it's booming around the world, right? That is why podcasting is such a successful medium. And here's to more of it in Sri Lanka, right? Because it is such a powerful medium. And you're right. When people feel that they can tune in, they can learn, they can be inspired. So it's really...
Yeah.
So, like you mentioned earlier, you'll be traveling around the world. So, if I just ask you, could you share some strategies that these tech companies can use in making people more people-centric approach, and how the empathy, the values come in? How would you say that these big tech companies could do their whole strategies and stuff? Like, if you could share some tips or something.
Like, I think, as I said, the key is to really look at how you are listening, how you enable listening in the workplace. As leaders, we often suffer with two issues. One is low time and the other is high stress. So the first real tactic is just to be able to be present enough, slow down enough to really hear people, okay? I ask my audiences all the time, are you listening to understand, or are you listening to reply, right? And that's a really big difference. So the best tip I would give them is to look at how they're listening and how they could be more active. Some of the ways you can do that, eye contact is a really big one, right? So making sure that you connect with people, body language, open body language. And then the third thing I would say is that curiosity is the backbone to all empathy. If you want people to trust you, if you want to be a leader that people follow, if you want to be the most innovative tech brand out there, you need curiosity, right? So looking at neurolinguistics, looking at the way we create questionnaires and how we encourage people to share is really, really critical. That's how you create belonging and connection, loyalty. It's how you reduce turnover. We have a big issue in Sri Lanka, but everywhere, with staff turnover, keeping our staff. So yeah, I would say some of those facets around listening, body language, and also just linguistics, how you ask questions, how you ensure that you're listening to people.
So another hot topic that's been spoken about is about diversity. How we can connect this diversity, when it's broken down into music emotions. How can we connect this with technology? Okay.
Yeah, like for me, Marcel, the key here is that empathy is the foundation to all diversity. And I'm not just saying that because I love to talk about empathy, it's meant to do, but how are you ever going to include diverse opinions, diverse insights into your technological evolution, right? If you're doing innovation in tech or you're creating new products for people, you want your tech to solve problems in the world. Empathy is your insight, because how are you ever going to understand diverse voices or diverse needs, or how are you ever going to include people if you don't first understand, right? So much of tech comes from a process that we often call design thinking, right? Which is how you look to design to solve problems, often with technology. And again, that is based in empathy, right? In curiosity, in gaining insight into what people need and how they're going to use that platform. So yeah, absolutely. For all diversity, whether that's leadership, teams, culture, or it's product innovation and product innovation pipeline development and that type of thing, you first need curiosity. You need empathy to be able to make that actually sustainable and relevant and authentic.
That's something really cool that I want to ask about.
I'm ready. How cool? How cool is it?
Positivity.
Indeed. Okay, that's it. Right.
Yeah. So when we just speak about positivity and how it impacts
Someone's life, and then especially with technology, can be in what do you actually think about positivity?
So what I think is that the mind is a very powerful thing. That's what I think. What we know from data and from research, and this is, I'm going to talk about optimism, but it's very much part of positivity, is that optimistic people are, first of all, they live longer, right? So it's true, the data shows it. If you have an optimistic outlook, you live longer than people that have a pessimistic outlook, right? The data shows that.
Yeah.
If you have self-belief and confidence, if you have positivity around your outlooks, you are more able to find solutions. You are more likely to heal from diseases and that type of thing. We even see a connectivity to immune systems and your body, like your physiological strength. So I think in tech world, as we've touched on earlier, it's a highly stressful industry. There's a lot of change, there's a lot of churn. But I think your mindset is critical. And that's why, mental health and generally understanding yourself is so important. And just, for your younger listeners, just knowing that life goes in cycles. So however difficult it is right now, I always remember my grandma. My grandma used to say, she was very British, this too shall pass. So very old-fashioned phrase. But she wasn't wrong. This too shall pass, right? And just knowing that through all of those difficulties, good things will come. And that everything that's difficult is a learning. And whenever I have bad days or difficult days, when I'm feeling negative or pessimistic or concerned, I remind myself of that. This is a learning opportunity. What am I supposed to learn so that I can grow and get back to that positive?
I mean,
That's what I think.
I'm going to pick up one word that you mentioned, mental health.
Yes.
And then mental health and social media these days.
Yes.
I think it's a big topic. And then there's people hurting each other or hurting themselves.
How can we use empathy to enhance someone's life, someone's need, through the use of good social media, good practices? What do you say about that?
Look, back to some of the points I mentioned earlier around listening. There's a reason that the life coaching or the coaching industry is growing as fast as it is. People need to be heard. It is a fundamental human need. All of us, when we are born, we need to be seen and heard. We need to be recognized. Not all mental health issues, but many come from feeling isolated, come from that loneliness I was touching on earlier. Empathy is the ability to connect. Fundamentally, empathy brings you closer together. People ask me the difference between empathy and sympathy. Very simply, sympathy creates distance. I feel sorry for you, but I'm not close to you. I feel sorry for you at a distance. Empathy is about I understand. For many people, it's that loneliness, that disconnection that results in negative mental health issues and habits and behaviors and sometimes, repeat rhythm effects. So empathy plays a huge role, as does things like coaching. Just being heard, being able to speak to someone, feeling that people are listening. Empathy is not about agreement or judgment. You don't have to like what someone is saying, and you definitely don't have to agree with them. You just have to understand them. Right? So there is a direct contribution, and what I talked earlier about some of those youth suicide figures, right? What the research shows us is that for many of those young people, they just felt that nobody understood them. Nobody understands me, so why am I here? What am I doing? Where am I going? What's my future? Right? So there is a direct connection between that.
Especially you might have heard Sri Lanka as well. Really high.
I think here in Sri Lanka, the conversation is not as, let's say, not as widely spoken about as in some other parts of the world.
Yeah.
But I think that's changing.
Yeah.
I think that there is more and more openness, not because they want to make the country look bad or the problems are bad, but because people want solutions, right? We want to make Sri Lanka better, and you can only create innovation. You can only fix problems once you recognize problems. So absolutely, I think listening, being heard, having places to go where people will understand you, will listen to you, not judging, right? But just hearing is really, really critical, especially beyond.
Yeah, good point. I'm just gonna drive to the different park.
Yeah.
I'm just looking.
What is the story and the motive behind the book? And this is actually the best-selling book too.
Thank you.
Let's just speak about it. And it says,
Empathy, how humanity is, and all this leadership trend is changing our world.
Yeah. So, when I wrote that, I I was not planning on writing a book. I don't know if I said that earlier, but I really was an accidental, or that I wanted, when I started talking about mental health and I was in that really difficult business environment, the writing was almost like journaling. I wanted to write down what I was learning, what I was finding. And before I knew it, I had about 13,000 words, and a friend of mine said, "Why don't you write a book?" And I was like looking around. I was like, "Who?" She was like, "No, you." I was like, "I can't write a book." She said, "Yeah, you can." And I was under the impression that only like super famous people wrote books. So I wrote the book. I got a publisher, and I was just super passionate about sharing what I had done with everybody else. I've now written 2 more, and that's the only reason I did it. I want more people to understand this. I believe that the more the world talks about empathy, the more empathy the world will have. And there's never been a time, as you said, that we need it more than now. So whether it's a book or it's a podcast or it's a carousel of Instagram, my purpose is to spread understanding of empathy. There are so many misconceptions, so much confusion, and I want to set that record straight. And one person at a time, one podcast listener at a time, we can reconnect people, and in doing that, the world.
Yeah. How's the feedback of the book so far?
It's sold out a few times, so hopefully it's good. It's sold out twice in Sri Lanka. But it's done well, it's done well across the world, and I now have 2 new publishing deals for the next 2 books.
So what are the next 2 gonna be?
So I will continue the conversation around empathy. The first one is out this September.
I go bestselling and
I hope so. You will start that off, right? You can be number 1. The first one is called Empathy at Work, and it is actually a new edition of this same book, but republished, but in the Sri Lanka.
Oh,
Because so much of my work is here.
oh, yeah. So it is like more focused to innovation up.
Yes, what in the Sri Lanka specifically, but yes, actually. And then my brand new book, the title is not yet revealed.
Okay, so that's secret.
It's a secret. But I'll tell you first when we release it. But that should be out in December or January globally.
It's fully, and that.
It's complete. Oh, yeah, it's finished.
How long did you actually take, to write this book?
The first book I wrote very quickly. I wrote it in about 6 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
But this book, because now I'm busier. Now I'm on a plane like every week. So now this book probably took me over the last 6 months. I've been writing it. It's about longevity. So it's about how empathy can do 3 things. Can help you lead longer, so be a better leader, like we've spoken about. How empathy makes you live longer. So literally the physiological capacity of empathy. So when we are connected, we are healthier. We literally live longer. In fact, connected people live 8 years longer than non-connected people. And also relationships. So how you have better and longer relationships, whether that's marriage or romantic relationships or family relationships. How we use understanding and listening in the home and with our families to overcome some of those gaps. So it's about longevity. And I hope it's a really new take. There's not many books on that out there anymore. So.
Well, next video come back again with a new book.
We get happy back.
Yes.
Can we drink more Coke?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I'm in.
Okay.
So I'm just touching upon something that you do the most, I believe, going to workshops and speaking to communities. So it's been really lovely. Like I love speaking to communities who want more about tech and about casting, which is new. So what kind of can you just share some experience on like the best things that you have spoken in workshops and some amazing feedback, and what do you actually want to tell the community right now listening the podcast as well through those experiences? It's a long question.
Yes, but it's a good job I have a long memory. So, but look, I think that the most rewarding part, and you touched on it too, you're doing it as well, is just getting feedback, is seeing audiences, seeing them smile, getting people come up. And I had a young student with me this morning who said to me, "I think you might change my life." And you're like, okay. So those moments are really powerful. I've had a few of them in the last few months. And what I would say is that the more you lean into your passion, the more you lean into your purpose, even when other people don't necessarily believe in your purpose yet, the more that positivity comes, the more that feedback comes. And I thought for a few years or so that I could only work at the business world, right? That's where I thought that's my specialism. And in the last 6 months, I have done, probably 12 months now, more and more in communities. We've developed a free education system for children in empathetic work, which I hope to get into the Sri Lankan public schools. We've done work around relationships. I've worked with teenagers who are being bullied in ganglands in Africa. So all these different spaces which are far from the corporate world. And what I can tell you is, the more you lean into that passion, the more you believe in what you're meant to do, the more comes back. So people always say to me, how do you have time? And I say, I think I create it. Truly I do. I think the more that you say yes, the more that you believe in the positive intention of what you're doing, the more will come. So that's my learning. My learning is the more passion you give to your audience, the more authenticity you offer them. They're very kind. People are very kind. So I get lots of support.
That one question asked about time that's been asked for me as well, how I manage my time.
Yeah.
It's actually I think we can speak about time also, how we can use time. If you use it and manage it well, you don't get
That recently, probably it's been an inspiration mechanism. You write books, you travel on a flight, you do a workshop, you come back again, you write other book.
You're right, another book. Just keep going. You need sleep. No, that's not it. I do sleep. But yeah, as I said, I do believe that you can create time. I think here's what I learned is that when you say the words, I don't have time or I won't have time, right? That is a conscious statement. I'm conscious of saying that. But what it does is it subconsciously impacts how you think and plan. What that means is the more you say, I don't have time, the less time you will have. That is how the conscious and subconscious mind works. So I made a decision a few years ago to try my best to never say that, right? To never say I don't have time, but to consider I will create the time. You know, I think prioritization is important, and I'm getting better at that. In my work, I want to say yes to everything, and I nearly always do. That's the problem. But really working at where can I add the most value? What's going to have the most value? How can I help the most people? And yeah, just believing that if it's meant to be, it will be. So
I song like that. That
is that. Well then, should we sing it? I can't sing, but you can sing it.
So that's one favorite question that I found is that you are the founder of and very first organizational empathy platform.
Exactly.
Empathy Everywhere.
Yes.
Empathy.everywhere.co.
Yeah.
Specific.
You are right.
It's something that I love speaking is like making platforms, developing platforms, and sharing with each other. What is the story behind this platform?
We live in a content-first world. There is so much content every day. It's hard for any of us to keep up with what we see on Insta or TikTok or wherever we are. So I wanted to have a platform that I could home that. And so we've got a brand new platform, actually. It launched just about a month ago. It's going to allow us to have courses on there, so I can come on and get training in here, so listening and empathy itself, empathy, mental health, those types of things. We've also launched a coaching division, which will be on there so that people can get access to coaching. Our podcast is there, all of that, right? So that there's one place for people to come that are interested in that. So that as well, as an entrepreneur, and you'll find this yourself, all the work we're doing, there's a lot, right? There's a lot. Your podcast has just done amazingly at a short period of time, but suddenly you have, tech and sponsors and guests and editing and all of these things. And I feel like finally we're getting into a rhythm, but it's been 5 years, right? To get here, to having it all in place, to kind of working it through. So yeah, I think technology allows us to scale, right? It allows us to stay in touch. And you mentioned social media earlier, and I think often people are very negative about social media, right? They say that it fuels, bullying and segregation, and yes, it can. But technology also connects us. I mean, we're here connected together because of tech, and so many people will hear us because of tech. So for me, technology is about connection, and that's what our platform is about as well.
Yeah, that is absolutely amazing. And then you're also a CEO of Global Negligence.
Design business, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Freedom.
Yes, exactly.
That's how we spell it. Right?
Yes, yeah.
So, what is your role there, and what? So that's something I like as well because I do marketing as well.
Yeah, there you go.
Ads, and then getting that mindset of a person, and you see what is your role there, and how do you see that side of the world as well, apart from the like books and
No, look, I came from marketing. So my whole career had been in advertising agencies, and it remains a really big passion for me. How we create design that connects with people, how we enable brands to grow through that creativity. I'm actually off to Australia soon to talk to some audiences about that. The role of empathy, of design, of brand language in putting people together and helping us grow brands, build our businesses. So yeah, it's a great passion of mine, and it works alongside all of my work in leadership. Because in the end, everything is marketing, right? Everything is marketing. Everything is a story. People learn and grow through stories, and that's what branding is. It's about storytelling for a brand in a way that people can connect over a period of time. So whatever the story is, whether it's a book or it's a brand, I love to tell it.
amazing. So this is something I ask every guest on this podcast. Doesn't matter it's an international guest or local guest.
Okay.
It's basically connected to Sri Lanka because at the end, probably like 70% of my audience coming from Sri Lanka, and
Definitely.
as me living in Sri Lanka,
Yeah.
we need to give them something and talk about Sri Lanka as well. What? So all of us Sri Lankan youth, when they I'll just tell you this: when they when they are in school and when they are in transition to university or find that job, they are always stick into the basic roles that we see: being a doctor, being an engineer, basic ones that we all talk about.
Yeah.
But now, since the world is more open, there's more than that. There's specific niches like marketing, cybersecurity, there's a lot. But some people are just focused, and then they are locked inside because of their family, or they don't know, they don't have that awareness like it's normal. Whatever. What do you have to say to that youth that we are achieving?
First of all, I would say I understand, right? I think it's really important for people to know that. I think there's two things. We can't escape our families. They are our families, and they have expectations. Where the empathy comes in is understanding that their expectations, on the whole, are coming from a good place, right? Your family want you to do those roles because they believe that is going to change your future, right? So that's the reason, in my point of view, in my experience, I've worked here for a long time. That's why parents want you to be an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer, right? They see it as a very stable, safe, good career. They want the best for you, just for their kids, right? So I would say empathize with them first. But then I would also say that in self-empathy for yourself, which is understanding you, if you don't do the work you love, you will never love your work.
Yeah.
So you have to find what you love. And if you are not meant to be a doctor or an engineer, but you're meant to be a creator or a writer or an architect or any of these things, then you need to find a way to make that, your journey. We only get one life, and it's your life. So without alienating those around you, help them come on that journey. Don't argue with them about it. Explain it to them. Help them empathize with you. Help them understand that this is your vision, and that is what's going to make you the best version of you right now. I know that's hard. I know it's easier said than done. But in the end, we only have that. We only have that shared conversation. You have to love your life. It's short, too short. And doing the stuff you love is critical. And when you do what you love, success will find you.
Amazing. So before we wrap up, I'm just going to ask you, how's the experience in the podcast so far?
This podcast, the best ever, because you gave me free joke. It's in a country I love, and you are super energetic. So no, I've loved it. Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here. I'm so happy you fitted me in my crazy travel schedule, and I just wish you so much luck, because this is exactly what Sri Lanka needs: more conversation, more engagement, more inspiration. So I'm thrilled that's it. Thank you.
Amazing.
So yeah.
So before we come back again, I maybe when you come back,
Yes.
September.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. Meanwhile, this one's on Daras. So anybody wondering?
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
We turn that ask. Okay, I just saw this and I got scared. Then it's in UK.
No, it is in the UK, but he's also here. So they could go by their hours, and hopefully it'll be at the Colombo Book Fair in September as well, along with the new one.
Amazing. So let's come back to the second book when you're back here.
Please.
Yeah. And then if there's any advice that you can give to the community and to everyone watching, what could is the...
Oh, I would say it would build on that last point I made. I would say follow your dreams. And I think that if you get resistance to those dreams, remind yourself that perhaps those people just aren't ready yet. That doesn't make them wrong. And when you find them, you'll know. So, yeah, stay true to yourself. I think that's the best advice we can get.
Stay true to yourself. Thank you so much, Mimi.
Thank you for having me.